Hello, welcome to the Penalty Box Perspective podcast. My name's Nathaniel, and I'm joined once again by my good friend Matt. How are you doing?
Yeah, very good, mate. Yeah, very good. Nice to be back. I was taking a little break following the conclusion of the regular season, just to recharge a little bit before coming back into the playoffs. And what a first round we've had so far. But yeah, really looking forward to getting back into it all. But yeah, how are you? All good?
Yeah, good. There's something just hits different about playoff hockey.
Yeah.
Like, the regular season is such a churn sometimes. Like, you're playing matchups and there's so many games day in, day out, and not every game has the same significance, but these games have been absolute wars, every single one of them. I'm just loving it. I'm loving it.
Yeah.
Not loving the start times for games, but loving the games themselves.
Yeah. Yeah, it's even harder to watch playoff hockey for us than it is for us to watch regular season games. But you know, they've all got to fit into that prime time slot, haven't they? So yeah,
Prime
is
time
what it
slot
is.
for North America.
Yeah.
Not for us, but we're dedicated, we're hardcore, where we haven't watched games live. We have definitely watched game recaps, read up on it, we know our stuff. Now, what we're going to do, we're going to run through both conferences' playoff brackets, just catch us at the sort of halfway point here. So most matchups have played at least 4 games. So it's a good time to catch up and see where we're at. We've got a couple of teams who are already through and have swept, and some very tightly contested matchups. But we're actually going to start with a matchup that's already done. Colorado have swept the LA Kings. What are your initial thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, you made your early season prediction that the Kings would would make the playoffs. They haven't been there very long, but yeah, it's the Avalanche sweep them 4-0. And look, you know, looking down the list of matchups, if there was one series that you were thinking that has the potential to be a sweep, that has the potential for one team to just absolutely, you know, kind of batter the other, it was going to be that Colorado series. And yeah, unfortunately, the Kings just couldn't really lay a glove on them. I suppose for Colorado fans, it's probably eased a little bit of their concerns. Maybe kind of, there's always that thing, isn't there, with, you know, President's Trophy winners and, you know, the fact that they don't play a lot of meaningful hockey running into the end of the season, and sometimes they come out of the gates in the playoffs a bit slow, a little bit kind of lackadaisical, not quite in their, you know, not quite up to their top gear, and you know, it has the potential to be a bit of a banana skin, but Colorado just yeah, absolutely hammering the Kings.
Yeah. Not only did I predict the Kings to get into the playoffs, but also Colorado to win it all. And they've shown that they can change their style of play from sort of regular season to playoff hockey as well. It is a 4-0 drubbing, and there's no doubt about it. Colorado were the best team in every single game that they played against the Kings in this series, but it was 2-1 victories, and a 4-2 and then 5-1 last night. Now, the 5-1 wasn't, I don't really think was a 5-1 victory. This was very closely played games, even though there was a clear gap in quality. There wasn't, and as we'll go into with other teams' results, there wasn't really a big blowout in any way, shape or form. Kings were always kind of in it, but in the same breath they weren't.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And like you say, it wasn't like they weren't going out getting smashed kind of 8-2 every night or anything like that. But you could definitely see the gulf in the quality between the two teams, and you know, props to LA for you know, fighting for everything out there, and you know, trying to you know, just trying to do what they can to try and make up that talent gap with the extra effort and the commitment, dedication, everything like that. But unfortunately, it just wasn't enough for them, and they just came out on the wrong side of the result each time. And yeah, I mean, this Colorado team is phenomenal. And especially with them going out and like adding Kadri at the trade deadline and everything like that, like just adding those extra pieces to make you a more solid playoff team. I mean, I wouldn't want to face this Colorado team at any point in time, let alone in the playoffs. So, yeah, I mean, kudos to LA for the effort, but unfortunately, it just wasn't close.
No. And it is quite sad, really, that one of the most famous names in recent history, one of the best players in recent NHL history, has gone out off the back of a 4-0 drubbing in the playoffs. But Anze Kopitar said fairly early on in the season that this season is going to be his last one, and that is it. He's retired now from the NHL. He's unless he makes a dramatic U-turn in the off season, he is done. What are your initial thoughts on that?
Yeah, as we just kind of sideline into the kind of Anze Kopitar. I was going to say memorial, then not memorial. He's he's still
alive.
Career eulogy, but it's a little bit. I mean, obviously, I've been watching hockey for a long time now, and we're getting to that point where when I first started getting into hockey, and it was Patrice Bergeron, and it was Anze Kopitar and Zdeno Chara, Jonathan Toews, Sidney Crosby, Yager, Ovechkin, and sort of one by one, we're seeing these guys retire, leave the league. I mean, it's making me feel older, but but yeah, like just those guys that you got into the sport watching are now all kind of saying farewell to the game. And let's not make two ways about it. Anze Kopitar's had an absolutely unbelievable career. Massive shame for it to end in a in a 4-0 sweep in the playoffs. Not the ending I'm sure he would have wanted, but 1,316 points in 1,521 regular season games. He's the Kings' all-time points leader, first in assists, third in goals, as well as 89 points in 106 career playoff games as well. So, not only someone who could do it in the regular season, but could do it in the playoffs as well, and won 2 cups with the Kings in 2012 and 2014. 2-time Selke Trophy winner as well, during a period of time where it was, Patrice Bergeron's award to lose. But yeah, he's an absolute legend of the game. One of only 7 Slovenians to ever play in the NHL. Yeah, he's had a great career, and I mean he'll be a first ballot Hall of Famer for sure. He'll be going in next year. But yeah, what about you? Anything on Kopitar?
Yeah, I mean it's a common theme in the NHL in comparison to any other sports, really. But one club man. Played for the Kings his entire career. He was the face of that franchise. That iconic black jersey with white Kopitar on the back. It's just iconic. It's going to be hung from the rafters in that arena for many years to come. First ballot Hall of Famer, absolutely 100%. I must be surprised if he's the next president of Slovenia at this rate as well, now that he's finished his day-to-day career in the NHL. Either that or be a sick head coach in future.
Yeah, he's got a great hockey mind as well. He's definitely someone who, I mean, there's all sorts of options available to him as well. He's got quite a good personality as far as as far as hockey players go, especially kind of from the era of which he's played through, where I know that hockey players get quite they get a lot of flack for not necessarily having the best personality, but you could see him in a media role. You could see him in a hockey ops role. You could see him behind the bench. I'm sure he'll probably take. I mean, he's just wrapped up his 20-year playing career. I'm sure he'll probably want to spend some time with his family and hit the golf course or fishing or whatever it is he likes to do. And
the 10 million different surgeries he's going to need.
Yeah, get his body right. Yeah, he's. I don't think it's the last we've seen of Anze Kopitar in the NHL in a broad capacity. But yeah, congratulations to him on a massive career. One of the truly elite two-way forwards of the millennium. We'll move into our next series then. Now this is the big one. This is the one with all of the all the conversation's been, for me, the best series so far in the playoffs. Dallas and Minnesota. I know you've been like a coiled spring waiting to talk about this one, Nathaniel. Massive win for Minnesota the other night to pull that back to 2-2. But the floor is yours, my friend. Your thoughts on the series so far?
This series has been everything I wanted and more. Every game has been sick for one reason or another. We started out with an absolute demolition, 6-1. That was just insane. And I say 6-1 to Minnesota, of course. I don't think I'd be quite so cheery if it was 6-1 Dallas. But that's where we're at. Yeah, what can I say about that victory? We just absolutely steamrolled them, and you're just thinking, don't beat them too much. You'll give them some of that motivation to get their own back on us.
Yeah, you'll piss them off.
You'll piss them off a little bit. And I mean, we did see a comeback. Obviously, they won 4-2 in the second game. That's the game I didn't really get to see much of as a working schedules, but by all accounts, again, that was a very, very close matchup. And then we get into the third matchup, 4-3, which Dallas did win. Bullshit, if you ask me. We are dealing with some injuries. Zuccarello's out again, and he's almost pivotal to our power play, and we couldn't score on the power play to save a life, whereas Dallas will just pop them in on the power play for fun. But that game goes to 34 minutes into overtime before the deadlock got broken, and they won that game. And then we go back to the battle the other night. Minnesota, again, it goes to overtime. Matt Boldy, what a fucking hero. Oh, he was insane that game, absolutely clutch. How he's on 7 million a year, I have no idea, and Kaprizov's on 17, because Kaprizov's been missing.
Yeah.
And a special shout out to Jamie Benn for being a fucking...
Go on.
Twat. Talk about embellishment, and we'll talk about embellishment in another matchup coming up.
Yes, we will.
But there's a high stick, which one, if a stick was going to hit Jamie Benn's face, it would have been Jamie Benn's stick. But the fact is, no stick hit him in the face. And they scored on the power play at that, so really we should have won 2-1 in regulation. But anyway, those are my initial thoughts. If you wanted a more of a deep dive, then I'm available. But might need to book in some time.
Yeah. I mean, it's been massive, and embellishment has 100% been the theme of this first round. I think Nathan McKinnon got pulled for one in the in one of the Colorado games as well. And I know for another series later on, we're going to be discussing that as well. But yeah, it's been, as a neutral, it's been absolutely fantastic, and I've loved every minute. Just two teams going backwards and forwards, two really well matched teams. They're both, and like you said, Matt Boldy is just someone who I don't feel like we talk about enough. I mean, we talk about him a lot, but in the broader picture of the NHL, someone who I think maybe doesn't quite get the acclaim that he deserves. I think obviously with Minnesota, you've got Kaprizov there, you've got Hughes there, and Boldy kind of ends up falling a little bit into the background at times, but he is such a complete player. He's fast, he's physical, his shot is unbelievable. He's a great playmaker as well, and like you said, for him to be on 7 million is at the moment is an absolute steal, and certainly a conversation for the off season is how Minnesota are going to manage this all moving forward, with him, and with, I know he's locked up for the next 4 years, is it, at 7 million?
Yeah, 2030.
Yeah, so he's another kind of 4 seasons left, and obviously with Quinn Hughes and their desire to add a number one centre, and we'll see how they go about managing all of this. But yeah, the series as a whole has just been fantastic. It's been absolute blockbuster hockey, and this is what we were hoping for, and both teams have delivered.
Yeah. the both rosters are very similarly matched up, like especially with our sort of trade deadline moves. McCarron coming in, Nick Foligno coming in. We've got a fourth line who are rough. Like Dallas cannot get a break because Boldy's forechecking for his life. Kaprizov has got the biggest, like he's recovering pucks like no man. So all it takes is one forecheck and the puck goes a bit loose and Kaprizov's on it. And then to follow that up with, to when they're off, we got McCarron and the Felinos chasing him, Trennin, although he's been out injured as well. Nico Sturm's come in and done exactly the same job, just hounding. It's been back and forth, back and forth. Hockey, it's just been an absolute spectacle. It's just been great. And other than Myers on Dallas's defence, for me being the standout poor performer from the series, there isn't really much else. Both goalkeepers are playing out their goddamn minds. And on that, Jesper Wallstedt has played 4 out of 4 games already in this series. Gustafsson hasn't even had a look in. What that means for the off-season in terms of trading. I mean, Wallsted's value is just going up and up and up.
Yeah.
He's got a 9+920 save percentage at least over the 4 games, and that's against Dallas Stars in the playoffs. It's nuts.
Yeah, and that's what it comes down to a lot of the time with goaltenders, especially in the playoffs, is you kind of just have to ride the hot hand at the time. As well as Wallstedt's playing the way he's playing, he will continue to play. Especially because, you don't get back-to-back nights in playoffs or anything like that. You often get, a nice little break between games. So, providing he's playing well. Now, if he goes out in Game 5 and has a poorer performance, then it gives Gustafsson then the opportunity to come in. He's been outstanding. And again, I still think that Wallstedt is going to be a big trade candidate this summer. But his value is going through the roof at the moment.
Honestly, I could talk about this series all day, and we might do when it's actually concluded and we know the full story. But right now, it's just tantalising. It's fantastic. Nothing more to say. If you watch any playoff games, watch a game between the Stars and the Wild, because it's magic right now.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll move then into the only series as it stands at the moment with only 3 games played, and that's with Vegas and Utah. Obviously, Utah taking that first wild card spot and Vegas winning the Pacific Pillow fight. And what we've got at the moment is the Utah Mammoth, as it stands, with a 2-1 series lead over the Vegas Golden Knights. Now, Vegas took that first game in a 4-2 win, and then 3-2 win for the Mammoth and a 4-2 win for the Mammoth the other way, sees them lead this 2-1. Any sort of immediate thoughts on that, Nathaniel?
It's weird. This matchup hasn't really been catching my eye, I will be honest. With all the other matchups going on, it's one I don't know too much about, but it looks like a really, really close dogfight between 2 relatively similarly skilled teams. Tortorella's impact at the end of the regular season was massive. They went on a massive winning run, but has he got the mentality to get them through? For me, it can still go either way, this matchup.
Definitely, yeah, completely agree. It's on a bit of a knife edge at the moment, and this next game coming up on the 28th is going to be absolutely huge. I mean, if Utah win it, they take a 3-1 series lead. It's looking really difficult to see Vegas coming back from that. But equally, if Vegas pull it back to 2-2, you could see it going Vegas's way. I mean, there's a very reasonable argument to say that I think Game 4 quite often is arguably maybe the most important game in a series. It either gives you the opportunity to sweep, or if it's in if you're in a 2-1 situation, it either puts a team massively in the driver's seat, or evens it out halfway through the series. So it's been entertaining so far. Utah have been performing really well, and their offense has looked sharp. But similarly to you, this hasn't been a series that I've watched a ton of just because of the other games available. Still watch kind of all the condensed games and everything, and it's been a really tightly fought matchup again with as the scoreline suggests. But could really go either way right now.
Yeah, and with you on that fourth game point, because obviously these teams they play each other throughout the year. But the first game, it's like where the squad's at right now, where the mentality's at right now, and it takes a couple of games to sort of figure each other out. We're now at the point where they've kind of played all of their cards. They kind of know what each team is like, and then it just comes down to raw sort of skill and determination, I think, as well as injuries and health. But on a personal level, I love Utah to get through this matchup. That's the great storyline. Obviously, Vegas have changed their head coach. What Bruce Cassidy would have done is more entertaining off-season conversation. Neither of these teams, I mean, unless Dallas and Minnesota literally kill each other, you got Colorado up front, and the rest of this conference is kind of a bit. So I don't think either of these teams will get through to the Stanley Cup Finals, if I'm honest. But it's a good contest.
It is. It is a very, very good contest. Right. We'll wrap up this conference then with the Orange War of the Anaheim Ducks and the Edmonton Oilers. Now, from my previous point, just saying of how important Game 4 is. Game 4 between Edmonton and Anaheim, the Ducks take a 4-3 overtime win to lead the series out 3-1. As it stands, the Edmonton Oilers are one potential game away from being eliminated in the first round of the playoffs. Nathaniel, do we think that McDavid and Draisaitl and co are taking an early exit?
They are. They're going to take an early exit. We said in the previews that these games are going to be an absolute bloodbath. Neither of these teams have a defence worthy of anything, really. And you can see that. Like Edmonton have pretty much scored 4 goals every single game. And Anaheim have won because they've just scored more. So I think out of the next sort of Anaheim will come on top of a scoring matchup one of these next 3 games. They've got to. Like, if you can't rely on the defence to close down a game, a team will score more goals than you on one occasion out of the 3.
Yeah, I think law of averages would suggest that, wouldn't it? I mean, like I said, this was a really interesting matchup because it was just going to be an offensive duel. We know that both of these teams are frail defensively, and that's been highlighted through these 4 games. I mean, Anaheim have scored 20 goals across these first 4 games. That's 5 a game, but the Oilers have scored 15 as well. So they're not being blunted on the other end. But yeah, it's just these teams trading. Absolutely, it's like 2 boxers. In a match against each other, and they're just throwing haymakers at each other. No one's putting their hands up to try and block anything. It's just these no, none of that at all. It's just two boxers just absolutely throwing haymakers at each other. And Anaheim have the edge at the moment, and I think I'm with you. I think they'll take it. Now, obviously, in our final episode, our last episode, we made our predictions, and I did say that I did think the Oilers were going to take this series, just based off of the McDavid factor and everything like that. But it's really hard to see Edmonton coming out and winning the next 3 to take this series, and even if they do, what does that mean for them in the next round if they get through, having had to fight back from a 3-1 deficit? To get through to the next round, they'll be running on fumes in round 2. So, difficult situation for Edmonton to be in. Obviously, they loaded up at the deadline with half of Chicago's roster, and Stan Bowman was brought in to deliver this cup to Edmonton, and he might potentially be falling at the first hurdle.
What a weird flex that is, though, into like, you know what, we've been in the Stanley Cup Finals 2 years in a row, and we're hitting a trade deadline of another pivotal year, and you know what, we're just going to sign the players the Chicago Blackhawks don't want. Um, no shade at Chicago. We know we had a big gong chat about where they're at and how exciting their future is, but when you got Chicago's fourth liners playing for you, I mean, Minnesota got your best fourth liner.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I don't know if it was necessarily players Chicago didn't want, but more guys that just didn't fit in sort of with the timeline.
Yeah.
I mean, Connor Murphy's has been really solid for Edmonton since he's gone there, but he can't do it on his own, and he's in his mid-30s now. He's a great shutdown defenseman. Great for him to get his first playoff goal as well. This is Murphy's first experience of playoff hockey. Never played there before, never been there with Chicago, wasn't there when he was with Arizona either. So, he's kind of having to try and hold down the entire defensive core because it's not going to be Darnell Nurse, and it sure as shit isn't going to be Evan Bouchard. But I'm with you. I think that over the next 3 games, I think Edmonton might take the next one, but I could see this being maybe like a 4-2 series win for Anaheim.
Yeah, and this is why I'm not really asked about Vegas, Utah, because those 2 teams, they're fine. They're good teams. They're probably playoff teams. But I don't fancy them to be good enough to reach the Stanley Cup and potentially with winning it all.
No.
But never count out the wild card, like loose cannons, because the chaos causes. I mean, we'll touch on the perennial chaos causes this year, who didn't potentially do so well in the eastern side of things. But you put in... I'm not sure how the matchups work, but you put up the Ducks against the Golden Knights, or the winner of Dallas or Minnesota, or even Colorado, who aren't an explosively offensive team, and just put chaos on the ice. They could win. They could.
Yeah.
When you just play all-out hockey, when you get into the point in the game where you're pulling your goalie and you just rinsing the puck in the offensive end, like, that's how goals are scored, how draws can become wins, and overtime can become wins. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's
I just think
it's such a wild card, isn't it? The whole thing, and that's what we love about it. But yeah, I'm excited to see how all 4 of these series how they all finish. Can't wait. Anything more on the Western Conference for you, Nathaniel?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll take a very quick break, and we'll be back with the Eastern Conference and the other half of the bracket, and we'll pick it up from there. Stick right with us.
Right, we are back, and we're going to talk Eastern Conference hockey. Okay, so just like in the Western Conference, there's been a team who has swept the other. So they're already done, got their feet up, watching the rest of the conference battle it out while they're getting some nice rest and recuperations. Shock horror, it's also the first seed, and also the other team that I said will be in the Stanley Cup Finals. It's the Carolina Hurricanes have swept the Ottawa Senators 4-0. Yeah, I think it was coming, wasn't it?
Yeah, the writing was on the wall, I think, after that first game. Obviously, getting the 2-0 shutout victory. They had to really battle it out in that second OT to take the 2-0 lead. And even then, I mean, 2-1 in Game 3 and 4-2 in Game 4. So closely fought, but similarly to the Colorado series, just a talent gap between the 2 teams, and the Senators did have a very impressive end to the season, but just when it came down to playoff time, I don't know if they had maybe exerted most of their energy getting there, and then maybe just didn't quite have their legs under them for the playoff series. But it ends 4-0 to Carolina, and they are safely through to the next round.
Yeah, I think time caught up with the Senators. The stylistic matchup wasn't great for them. They like a bit of chaos. in games. Brady Tkachuk loves getting involved, scrappy, dappy games, whereas Carolina are the epitome of a professional outfit. They go on the ice, they get the job done, and don't bite whatever Ottawa throws at them. And it was just a clinical 4-0 win, to be fair.
Yeah, I mean, Carolina are a very, very professional outfit. We saw it through the regular season. Like, they're not a particularly flashy team, but they just do what they need to do and they get the job done. They're like that really, really reliable co-worker that you can give them a job to do and they're just going to get it done. They're not going to moan about it. They're not going to argue about it. They're not going to make a big song and dance in the process of doing it. But, you give them the job on Monday, you come back to them, on Friday and the job's done. That's Carolina to a T, really. But yeah, Ottawa falling a little flat, and I'll pass the torch back over to yourself. But I do have a little bit of a sticking point with these Senators. But I'll anything. I'll pass it back to you if you've got any further thoughts.
Yeah, well, I was just going to come in with the fact that with your analysis of the Hurricanes, they just get the job done. They're pure Bob the Builder vibes, aren't they? Especially what you need after a hurricane is Bob the Builder, who comes in and gets a job done.
Oh, anyway. Absolutely does. With all of his various... Oh, God, it's been 2 decades since that's even come into my mind, so I'll...
You should see I haven't watched the new episodes, but I've seen the animations from it because I think it was on a meme on Reddit or something, and they look freaky scary now.
Oh man, that's no fun. I'll definitely check that out. That is the cornerstone of mine and Nathaniel's childhood right there. I've got a little bit of a grievance with this Ottawa Senators team, and it's a bit of a reluctant grievance because I don't want to have it with this particular player because I love this player. I love everything about them. I love the way they play. But Brady Tkachuk is a bit of a problem for me. And here's why. I don't know if you saw, and I'm not kind of a massive fan of this anyway. Brady and Matthew and Big Daddy Keith Tkachuk all have their own little podcast together. Now, nothing wrong with a hockey podcast. You are listening to one right now. But I have a little bit of a personal issue with active athletes being on a podcast setting on like a regular basis. As like a guest every now and then, it's whatever, it's fine. But Keith Tkachuk basically made some really quite unsavoury comments about Linus Ullmark and his performance and everything like that. And Brady needs to sit in the locker room with this guy. He's, Linus Ullmark is their starting goaltender. Obviously, he's been through some shit this year, for lack of a better term. And I just thought it was a little bit out of order, kind of, from kind of calling his performance into question and everything like that. And, I think it was just before the series started. And I think that, you've got your captain and your starting goaltender, and it just creates, off the bat, a really difficult atmosphere at a time where, they all need to be pulling in the same direction. You're the Ottawa Senators. You've got in, I think scraped into the playoffs is quite a... I don't think that's unfair. They scraped their way into the playoffs. They're playing the Carolina Hurricanes, who are the team that, like we've just described. And I just think that it's so counterproductive. And I think it's just really... It just created the wrong vibe in the dressing room, going into the series. And unfortunately, I don't know how much of an impact it played, but yeah, just wasn't for me. Was that?
It just screams a bit immaturity, doesn't it? Like, I agree. On a professional level, you have to do me, and this is, You're going to get me started here, Matt, okay, because I'm just spiralling now, because it goes out to my point where we throw these people who are not media trained, they are professional athletes, and we throw them in front of cameras in between periods of games, after games, just constant media, 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 media. And so much so that now it is pretty much like the second most important stat on the NHL game is their media ability. They go on podcasts and talk stuff, and if they don't exactly know the nuances, or they can suddenly get into not like a trap, they can get put into a very difficult position. Whereas, and I haven't seen the clip of the podcast you're talking about, but does Brady back up his goaltender at behest of his dad and his podcast and cause a situation there, or does he just back up his dad and go down that route? There's no winners out there.
Yeah, no. I mean, he, in essence, I mean, he didn't sort of directly say his name, but it was in the closing few games of the season. So as they're fighting there, and Keith Tkachuk was essentially saying that there's certain key figures within that Ottawa dressing room who are just a bit soft. And who don't necessarily have the right mentality to go into a playoff series, which is like, Brady kind of laughed awkwardly, and then Matthew went to change the topic of conversation quite quickly. So yeah, I think it just I don't know. I think it just created a bit of a ill
all these sport
atmosphere.
podcasts with players need to stop. Like, it's rife in the NFL, etc. There's a going bit that a player retires and a podcast pops up, and normally they run for like 10, 20 episodes, and then you never see him again. And it's like, your boy's got his very own NFL podcast. You think, yeah, enjoy that 3-month run.
Yeah, and I don't necessarily have issues with players doing it once they've retired, because it's a little different. And I appreciate there's the aspect of it where it's two active NHL players pulling back the curtain on what it's like to be an NHL player in the day-to-day life. But I just think that you're pulling the pin out on a grenade at that point, and you're just waiting for it to go off, because someone will say something, or someone will do something, or we know how much the internet likes to take things out of context. And even if it's not necessarily intentional, I just feel like it causes more problems than it benefits from giving people
what
that
are they
insight.
Going to get? The both players are multimillionaires. They've got a pretty exhaustive career at the best of times, and what are they gaining? It's for me.
Yeah.
I mean, only they can answer that question.
I have no doubt that both Brady and Matthew will make fantastic media personalities when all is said and done with their career. They'll be immensely entertaining. I'm sure all of the big network providers in the US will be chomping at the bit to get them signed up, for their like in-studio analysis or whatever. But yeah, I mean, got a little bit on my soapbox there and derailed the conversation a little bit, but it's when the Sens have been swept 4-0, and you've kind of had this contentious locker room issue going into the series, it's hard to see a world where that hasn't played a role in it.
Yeah,
could be wrong.
Yeah, they've just seen the Kelsey brothers on their podcast as well, and fancied a bit. But anyway, we'll move on then into the next matchup. And I think, there's a couple of good matchups in the Eastern Conference. My head kind of tilts towards talking about the Battle of Pennsylvania next, the Pittsburgh Penguins and the Philadelphia Flyers, where we probably have the biggest shock so far of these matchups.
Yeah, completely. The Philadelphia Flyers with a 3-1 series lead over the Pittsburgh Penguins. And that was a series that they held a 3-0 lead in as well before Pittsburgh kind of fought one back. But yeah, the big shock so far, I think, talking to one of my close friends who's a Pittsburgh fan, was just like, what are Pittsburgh doing? Game 2 getting shut out, 3-0. 5-2 in game 3. They're just not quite clicking, especially defensively. They're just too leaky, and all the good play that we saw from Erik Karlsson during the season, he's making leaps and bounds to undoing a lot of that with the way he's played so far. It's been an uncharacteristically poor showing from Karlsson so far, and bringing back onto the conversation of embellishment, for the first time in his career, Sidney Crosby gets called for an embellishment penalty.
What? Only this, like, I don't know why it's such a fucking story. Like, it's it's taken over any storylines, and I feel bad for Paul Martin. We'll get onto him in a moment, but like the entire narrative of this series just been a face-off, like high stick, and Crosby laying on the floor. Like, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's yeah. I think it's just because of the profile of the player, and I think with it coming in a series that's really not going Pittsburgh's way at the moment. I mean, if the series score was flipped and Pittsburgh were 3-1 up here, I don't think anyone would be talking about it. But I think it's, Pittsburgh coming unglued, they're playing poorly, and Sidney Crosby is getting pulled for embellishment penalties now. Like, what's going on? Yeah, it's it was an interesting bit of
When
coverage.
your head coach
for
is
sure.
having to speak to the media about how embellishment is not in Sidney Crosby's DNA and it's not the person he is, I'm like, you're 3-0 down in a play in the first round of the playoffs to the Philadelphia Flyers, for fuck's sake. Like, come on, what is what? It's the biggest story, but the one that I'm just scratching my head about, really. Like, I don't know why it's a thing.
Yeah, yeah.
Especially when there's no conclusive evidence. You got Jamie Benn clearly faking stuff. Like, obviously faking stuff. He's smiling as he's walking away. Like, it's blatant. And then Sidney Crosby, I mean, I don't know if the stick hit him in the face or not. He surely had no evidence of it, but he's just, I don't know, it just wasn't, it wasn't even a big pivotal moment either.
Yeah, it's I don't know, man. Like, it's I don't know if they're trying to sort of deter or mask kind of the bigger deficiencies that Pittsburgh are having at the moment. But I don't think the refs' calls are the reason that Philly are leading this 3-1 at the moment. But yeah, massive game coming up for them next, and at home as well for Pittsburgh, and if they take this next game and they bring it back to 3-2, there's potential for them there to push on through. But similarly to that Edmonton Anaheim series, I don't know if they've got 3 really high quality performances in them consistently that's going to get them over the line. And if they do, again, they're going to have to face off against the Hurricanes in the next round. The kind of toll that's going to take on them leading into the next round for if they get there.
Yeah, there's 3 matchups out of all 8 which are currently sat at 3-1, and my money would be on one of them being overturned. One will come back. For me, it's still Pittsburgh's a team that might come back. That's purely because I don't really rate the Flyers, but we've got to talk about Paul Martin. He's selling the most jerseys in the league. He's got 2 game-winning goals in this series so far. It might be 3. I don't know whether you correct me if you know it, but he's definitely got 2 game-winning goals, and he's just been an absolute sensation in this series so far.
Yeah, he has. He's been absolutely outstanding, hasn't he? Exactly as advertised. He does have 2. Yeah, he's tied with Alex Tuck for the most in the playoffs so far. But yeah, he's been fantastic. 3 points in 4 games. He's a +4. Couple of penalty minutes as well. But yeah, he's been exactly as advertised. And what a pick for Philadelphia. For him to fall to, I want to say he went 5th overall. I mean, it wasn't a massive shock that he was available at 5th overall for them. I think when you look at the guys that were selected, obviously Schaefer, Misa, Frondell, and I forget who went 4th overall in the most recent draft. But yeah, like, you know, he has slotted right into this team so seamlessly, and I'm just so excited for the next regular season. And potentially, you know, what this Philly team could do. I know that we haven't rated them much this season, but if they can get all of these pieces, you know, moving the right way, and they can get Zegras and Michkov and Martone kind of all, you know, they've got some really exciting pieces there to their team, and I'm excited to see what he can do through an 84-game season as of next year.
Yeah, we're really seeing this year these prospects coming through and hitting the ground running and doing really well. I don't think any one of them have struggled. Two names you were missing out on that draft rundown. Obviously, you got Schaefer, Misa, Frondell, Caleb Desnoyers for Utah Mammoth, who I think is,
of course, yeah,
is playing, he's doing well, and Brady Martin for Nashville as well.
Of course, yeah. Martone going six overall there. Yeah, I mean, wouldn't have been a massive surprise. I mean, Martone was in that conversation for 3 with Chicago. He was, you know, basically, he was kind of the unquantified pick. Really, he was kind of the one guy who guys had him up at number 2 on their draft boards. Some guys had him down as far as 9. And then everyone else kind of had him slotting somewhere in between. And you know, he got a lot of criticism in his kind of draft analysis of his skating, and that he wasn't a particularly great skater. But you know, skating is something that you can work on. Guys can add an extra half step, but you know, the way he plays, he might be 6'4". He's not a Tkachuk style power forward. He's surprisingly elegant, and you know, for a guy with his build, but he is much more a Tage Thompson than he is a Tkachuk, for sure. Which, for me, I'd rather be a Tage Thompson than a Matthew Tkachuk.
Yeah, I'm all for analysis and projections and what type of player somebody is. I do love that chats like that, but sometimes there are examples, and I mean, he goes take a 6th overall, so he's not a bad player, but like, the proof is in the pudding. He's on the ice at the pivotal point of the season, and he's performing. He's a great player right now, and he's doing it for Philly. And yeah, I mean, they're one win away from being in with the big boys, and nobody would have expected that. Everyone would have thought Pittsburgh, I think, going into this series.
Yeah. For sure. And he's playing 17 minutes a night as well, so he's getting the trust from the coaching staff to play those high amount of minutes and be put on the power play and everything. So yeah, really excited to see kind of how this one finishes. I do agree with you, of the 3 series that are at 3-1 at the moment, if there was one to be overturned, I think if anyone can do it, I think Pittsburgh can. I think they've got the experience to. But regardless, it's been another great series.
Yes. We'll lead off then into the next 3-1 series, and it's the Buffalo Sabres against the Boston Bruins. Now, shock, Buffalo Sabres are the one that are 3-1 up. So, I mean, I've caught some of the action from this series, not every single game, but I mean, the epitome of this was the game last night where Buffalo beat Boston 6-1. And Jeremy Swayman was a very, very unhappy man with how Boston were falling.
They just, I mean, the 3 prior games, I mean, 4-3, Sabres took game 1, Boston took the second one 4-2, Sabres took game 3, 3-1, like, close games when they just came out of a cannon in game 4. 4 goals in the first period. Just massive sign of intent. And they get to return to home ice for game number 5 to potentially see the series out. I mean, again, I don't know if he gets there. But Alex Tuck moving into free agency, you know, he's looking at a very nice contract. You know, he will definitely be in that kind of the sort of figures that we saw Kyle Connor and you know, Mitch Marner sign for, probably in sort of somewhere between 11 and 13. But yeah, he's had a great playoff so far. Again, two game winning goals for Alex Tuck so far. But yeah, it's, you know, we were all anxious to see what the Sabres could do, and so far they've you know, they've delivered. The vibes have been immaculate, and yeah, they've been brilliant.
It's been such a joy, and it's sad for Boston. I mean, they're always there. They're thereabouts. They've been sort of mid this year. Sabres have just absolutely taken off and have continued that into the playoffs. I think they seal this up in their next game, and I think they're going to be moving on. I think they've just got too much class. They're in too good high form for anything to really change. And especially with seeing the mentality of where the Bruins are at, because Swayman did get pulled eventually, but I don't think there's one person that says that result was because Swayman performed poorly. It was a poor team performance.
Not at all. Yeah, it was yeah, they're again bringing kind of like another boxing analogy into it now. Boston are down on the canvas, and you know, Buffalo has stood there looking over them, waiting to kind of finish them off in Game 5, and but yeah, I think it's going to be a struggle, I think, for Boston to kind of salvage this at this point. And you know, Buffalo just got a lot of class, and if they can wrap this up in 5. The final series that we're going to talk about in a moment, I think that's got the capacity to be a full 7-gamer. So anything that they can do, you know, gives them that extra few days of recovery and recuperation and everything. If they can win this in 5, it puts them in a really solid position for round 2.
Yeah. Agreed.
Yeah.
So
our final series matchup, again, I think, other than the Dallas-Minnesota series, I would argue this has been one of the most entertaining series so far. Montreal and Tampa Bay, currently deadlocked at 2 apiece, with 4 games played. Again, it's been back and forth. Montreal took a 1-0 series lead with a 4-3 overtime win. Tampa then tied it with an OT win of their own at 1-1, and then Montreal took a 2-1 lead through another OT win at 3-2, and then the Lightning won 3-2 in regulation. So, I mean, this is just, it's nail-biting. It's 2 really, really quality teams. You've got the kind of the experienced team in Tampa, and then you've got, you know, the Canadiens, the sort of the young up-and-comers, and, you know, just... it's 2 different teams, but we've seen some real standout performances. Brandon Hagel for the Lightning has been absolutely outstanding so far. He's a guy built for the playoffs. You know, an absolutely fantastic, you know, fantastic player. He's greatly missed in Chicago.
Another player greatly missed in Chicago. What can I say? This series, and I'm blowing our own trumpet because the Wild is involved in the other one, but this series is probably better somehow than the Wild Dallas Stars one is. And it's weird how each conference kind of has a similar composition, where they have one blowout, one really tightly contested series, and 2 other series which seems kind of a bit as they are. But this series is just incredible. Just a goal separating every single game. I'm not even going to begin to predict how this series is going to end, but I do think it'll be Game 7.
Yeah, absolutely, and a massive shout out in this series as well to Kirby Dach, who had to delete his social media after Game 2. He iced the puck, which in the second game, which led to Tampa getting their OT winner. And you know, Montreal's it's a really passionate fan base, and I get that. And the playoffs are, you know, massively important to every fan base. But Kirby Dach came under a lot of abuse from from fans all over the place, and I think everyone thought he was going to be scratched for Game 3, and he wasn't. And he came out in Game 3 with a goal and an assist. Shut the haters up. It would have been very easy for him to kind of cower away, sit one out, watch it from the press box, let the commotion die down. And I think from all accounts that was certainly an option that was given to him. He's like, if you want to sit this one out, like we won't be offended. And he was like, no, put me back in. I want to play. And their trust was repaid in plenty. So, great for him as well. Really, really strong character. For him to deal with that. But like you said, this one goal separating both teams in every single game so far. I could not call this series at all. If you were to ask me in the Dallas-Minnesota series, I think that Dallas have maybe an edge, and I would maybe put it at like 55-45. Not a big edge at all, but I would fancy Dallas if I was putting money on it. I couldn't even begin to predict this Montreal-Tampa series. It's just been again an absolute joy to watch for lovers of playoff hockey. But I tell you what, I don't envy the fans of both of these teams that are having to sit through the sport fan trauma and anxiety of watching your team in a high stakes situation.
Yeah, it's just go back to Kopi Dach. It is frustrating for me how if Minnesota Wild lose in Game 7 to Dallas Stars, it will absolutely ruin at least my day, probably my week, and leave a sour taste in my mouth all summer long. But I'm not going to go after Danila Yorov for committing a stupid penalty, sitting in the box for 2 minutes for Dallas to score the winner in overtime, or the fact that Danila Yorov can't take face-offs. And therefore, any minutes he plays are on a rolling change. He never starts on the dot because he can't take face-offs. I'm not about to explode on his social media page and make his life living hell in the place he has to delete it because of said facts and actually want to support and get behind the guy. So to all those fans out there who shout out the vitriol at especially their team, their own team that they support, it is just ridiculous to me. And
look, like in that particular game, no one, you don't need thousands of fans telling Kirby Dach that he had a shit game. He knows he made a mistake. He is feeling that more than anyone else. And then what he doesn't need after that is just thousands of people, just calling him out, being abusive towards him.
Didn't his wife delete social media as well?
I think so, yeah. I think again, and like when people went, and again, like it's just, it's a really sad time, and you see it kind of week in, week out, especially in like in football in this country as well. You are constantly seeing athletes having to kind of deactivate social media and everything, and you will have people try and defend it and kind of go, oh well, they're paid millions, they should be able to take it. It's like, well, they're also human beings. Yeah. Like it doesn't give you a vehicle just because you can. It doesn't mean that you should. And it's bang out of order. But I'm glad he was able to kind of rebound and come back. And all the fans love him again now because he had a great performance. And yeah, honestly, it fucking kills me off, man. But great. In summary, great series. Can't call it. Again, really excited to see how this one plays out. I think this one and the Dallas series, I think have the potential to go all the way.
Yeah, and I can't wait for the Wild to win.
I bet you can't. And if they do, I'll again, as I've had to do many times this season, I will hold up my hands. I will say fair play, and and congrats to Minnesota. But that's where we're at the moment. We are halfway through the first round. Nathaniel, sort of anything further from yourself at the moment?
No, I didn't know whether you wanted to cover off any other sports on this episode. Maybe of the round ball variety, where I think you're
not at all. Not at all, mate. No, I'm good. I'm absolutely good. I try and think about that as little as possible. I'm trying to invest as little of my energy into the Premier League right now as humanly as I can. So I really don't want to talk about that. Playoff hockey makes me happy. The Premier League makes me sad.
Man, Nathaniel just smacked the shit out of me.
Yeah, he did. Oh, that fucking drop worked, didn't it? Can't get a round of applause, but oh my god. Yeah, no.
Let me give it a go. Let me see if it works.
Nope. No, nothing. We will have a brand new round of applause in time for our next episode. So yeah, I think we'll.
That works.
Nice. Oh, okay, that one was all good. We'll be back at on-air production meetings. Nice. We'll be back. I think probably at the conclusion of the first round. You know, when kind of all said and done as we get there. But loving every minute of it so far, and yeah, absolutely love being able to to delve into this with you, Nathaniel, even if it does lead to you abusing me on the back end. Leave my back end out of this. Anything further from yourself before I sign us out?
No, sign us off before I get too giddy.
No problem. As always, guys, okay, you can find us on both X and Instagram at the PBP Podcast. You can also find us on TikTok at Penalty Box Perspective. You can get in contact with us via email at penaltyboxperspective@gmail.com if you want to get in touch with us. If you've got any questions about the playoffs, or if you just want to talk to Nathaniel about Minnesota, then please feel free to do that there. You can also watch the podcast in video format on both Spotify and YouTube. Please go and consider liking and subscribing over on YouTube as well. And please feel free to give us a 5-star review on both Apple Podcasts and Spotify if you're able. Really helps us as we come to the end of our first season here at the Penalty Box Perspective. Got loads of things in the pipeline, loads of plans and everything. So we want to try and get this to as many people as possible. Enjoy the playoffs, guys. Enjoy the playoffs, Nathaniel. And we'll be back with you on the next one. Take it easy. Take it easy until then, guys.